Presenting the thought leaders of today.
It's the Business Builders Show with Marty Wolff.
Welcome back to the Business Builders Show. We are pleased to welcome David Long to the show. Hello, David.
Hey, Marty.
David Long is the president and CEO of a company called My Employees. David's company has over 12,000 active clients from virtually every industry in the business world. Got my attention, David. Explain to us what your company, which is called My Employees, what do you do for these clients?
We help them basically engage and then recognize their best employees. We test them. We have employee engagement surveys. First one is like a pulse, what they call a pulse that they give to the manager, which is 10 questions. Mm-hmm. And then they give a 35-question questionnaire to the employees and to find out how engaged they feel they are. And let's just say that the managers are not as in good a shape as they think they are. Mm-hmm. when we get the end results. So we show them basically, obviously you don't tell the employee's name and what they said. You just take the accumulation of all of the questionnaires and give it an average, and that's where you go from.
Interesting.
And we let people know just how important it is that they engage with their employees, because that's critical. 65% of employees, according to Gallup organization, said they received no recognition whatsoever in the last year from their manager, which is pretty pathetic.
Pretty pathetic.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, pretty pathetic. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, the topic of employment engagement is certainly all over the place in articles.
Yeah, it is.
People are talking about it.
It's a buzzword now, for sure.
It's definitely buzzwords, David, but I'm not seeing a whole lot of evidence that companies are actually doing a lot of it. So apparently you're busy and growing, as I understand it, right?
Grew by 20% last year. We're what in the business world, Marty, is called a gazelle. If you average like 20% on top of 20% on top of 20% for like 4 or 5 years in a row, we are. So we're very thankful in that.
Okay, what got you thinking about this business to begin with? What inspired you to get into this business? What was the impetus for that?
It's called losing a job. and going back to doing an assessment of your life and what have I done and what skills do I have, and from that I basically started my business 25 years ago. This July will be 25 years in my mom and dad's garage after losing my job. And my wife and 3 kids and I had to move back home in the 1,340 square foot house with my mom, my dad, and my, at the time, 15-year-old brother who was 16 years younger than I am. So from there, I started the business because I had nowhere to go but up.
Well, what did that look like right at the very beginning? What were you actually doing for companies back then?
I would go, for example, and talk to like a real estate office, which was one of the first industries that I really had great success with. I would go in and I would ask them, how are you recognizing your sales agent, your listing agents, that type thing? And they would tell me. And anyway, so I had plaques, and I created those for them. And I basically showed them a system where we would track them to keep them on up to date every month, because the typical employee recognition program lasts a whopping 3 months. And people say, well, why 3 months? Well, it's like buying a new car. You buy a new car the first 3 months, man, you get in that thing, oh, man, the smell of leather. I love driving this thing. I'm waving to all my friends so they can be jealous of me driving my new car. But after 3 months, all you think of is the payment. Okay. So when people buy a new plaque program or whatever it is they're using, there's enthusiasm in the beginning, and then it wanes, and people typically forget. So we actually created a reminder program that managers would get a reminder via fax, call, email every month to keep them up to date, and we call them and ask them for their monthly winners, and then we ship out their nameplates for their plaques, and they put them on and give them out.
Do you help them design
set up criteria, which is critical? If you don't know how you're going to pick your winners, man, and that's the number one problem for managers. They don't know how to pick them. So I've created some videos on our website for that, how to pick your winners, the name of the title.
Well, I was going to ask you that question. Do you actually help them design the program too? Do you get involved to that level, David? Yeah,
we ask them, it's a consultative sales approach, which obviously is, very critical. So we find out exactly what it is you want to improve, Marty, in your business. So, okay, what we need to do is tie the employee recognition success to the success of the company. So in other words, if I'm going to be recognized for sales, I want to make sure that I rate them also on profitability. because you know as well as I do, you can sell anything. You can drop the price down so much, you'll sell it, but you won't make any money. You go out of business.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously it's critical that we weigh certain factors that make the business strong and make it successful. So that is what we have to reward. And you've heard the old saying, what gets rewarded gets repeated.
Yes. I've also heard the phrase, and you talked about this at the very beginning, that people don't quit companies, they quit managers.
That's absolutely true, buddy.
Okay,
absolutely.
I was going to say, either agree or disagree with me and go a little deeper, because you deal with this because you say you assess those managers and their engagement. So tell me a little bit more about that.
That's another thing, too, Gallup has said. They said basically 70% of managers are disengaged or actively disengaged. Let me give you an example of actively disengaged. Sometimes you'll call a manager up and you're trying to get their winners, and they're having some issues, usually personality problems. It's the management that's weak, not the people.
Mm-hmm.
You're only as good as your leader. So when you're talking to them and they say, well, actually, I don't have anybody that's worthy of getting Employee of the Month this month.
Wow.
And you're thinking, wait a minute, didn't you tell me you had like 60 employees, Marty?
Wow.
Are you telling me you don't have anybody in your business that's worthy of being recognized? That just screams, I'm a sorry manager.
Wow. I got to stop there. You really mean you hear that?
Oh, of course we do.
That's unbelievable.
Periodically, not all the time, but once in a great while.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the manager. That's their viewpoint, that they feel they have nobody and 60, 65 people that would earn Employee of the Month. Wow.
Yeah, like I said, that's ridiculous. That's just pathetic management right there.
Wow.
And they obviously have no relationship with their people.
Yeah, I guess so. You do all. You mentioned plaques, but again, your company devises all kinds of reward systems. Correct? I mean, kind of give us some other examples, because I'm talking about this. I'm promoting you, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. I am, but I am because I understand that what you do works, because compensation is not just money.
I agree.
And you would agree with that? So some other ideas that you may have worked with companies on. Give me some other examples if you can.
Well, actually, the main thing that we do is the plaque program. We just do different type awards, but that is our main gist of it, at least 90% of what we do. And we have the companies, they come back year after year. Matter of fact, we typically have about a 87, somewhere between 85 and 87, depending on the industry, that comes back. Some industries are less. We do, for example, we have about 2,000 Walmart stores.
Wow. Okay.
And they've been with us. We've been doing Walmarts for Great Day since year one, so 25 years.
Wow.
But those guys, you have, when you get in retail, let's go to restaurants first. They have the most turnover of any industry, just about.
Yes.
And when a new manager comes in, he typically or she doesn't want to do what the old manager did. And my question to them is, well, when you came in, did you replace all the employees? No. Did you replace the carpet? No. Did you replace the utensils and the plates? And no. Then why do you want to replace the system that's working and proven to work? All you need to do is, adjust it where it's focusing on the things you want to improve.
Wow. Yeah. Restaurants are a great example, because there is tremendous turnover in the businesses, turnover in people, a lot going on there. We're down to a last minute in this segment, David, and we are speaking with David Long, and his company is My Employees, and I think your website, David, is myemployees.com. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yes.
And is that the best place to learn about you and your company?
Sure is.
All right.
And of course, you go ahead. That's fine. That's the gist of it right there.
Okay. All right. Well, we still have lots of time to talk. Okay. But when we come back, and let's start talking about it now, we have that minute. I like to ask people, you've been at it 25 years, I think you said. Did you see what were your early signs of success? When did you start to think, or what was evidence that you thought, hey, this is starting to work?
A real estate office I actually went into right when I was really starting the company, and I had plaques that I had done for Circuit City back in the day, one of the jobs that I had prior to starting my company. And I had created some sample plaques for them, and they loved them. Well, they were in the trunk of my car. After I had lost my job, I actually was on the way home from Wilmington down to Carolina Beach, where I lived in North Carolina, and they were in the back of my car. So I actually started thinking, you know what, I need to go into a business and see what I can do here locally. So I went in to a real estate office, and I went in and I said, I'd like to talk to the person in charge of agent recognition.
Stop right there. Stop right there, because we're going to take our break, but we're going to pick up right there exactly where we left off. You're listening to the Business Builder Show with Marty Wolff. We'll be right back.
bringing the business classroom to you. It's the Business Builders Show with Marty Wolff. Informing, educating, and encouraging. The Business Builders Show with Marty Wolff.
Welcome back to the Business Builder Show. We are speaking with David Long, and his company is myemployees.com. When we left off, David, you were talking about some, I guess, a very early success. So you walked into a real estate office. Tell us more.
Yes, it was actually my earliest success. The very first one.
Okay.
I walked in. Matter of fact, I had on a pair of boat shoes, pair of shorts, and a polo shirt. Wasn't exactly dressed for success. But I went in and I talked to the receptionist and told her I wanted to talk to the person in charge of buying or recognizing their agents. So she said, well, Chuck's in a meeting. Can you sit down? I said, sure. So I said, would you mind if I borrow your calculator? Because I didn't know what I was going to charge.
Okay.
So I sat there, and being in retail for 13 and a half years prior to that, I had an idea about price points. So I figured out, okay, $199.95 was, of course, this is 25 years ago, but I divided that by 12 as $16.65. Anyway, I get in to see Chuck, and Chuck showed him the plaques. He really liked them all a lot. And he said, well, I got a bit of a problem like that. And my first thought was, oh, great, more rejection in my life is all I need right now. So then he says, we actually recognize 2 agents a month. I said, well, that's not a problem. So he said, what kind of price will you give me for 2 programs? And I said, okay, well, $16.65. I'll do 2 for $30. He said, 25 sounds awfully nice. I said, $27.50 sold. And he said, all right, we'll split the difference. So keep in mind, I hadn't even said I was in business yet. So this was like, nothing to lose kind of deal. So anyway, I told him, I said, can borrow your calculator? Figured out what tax was. And I said, I'm just starting out my business, Chuck. I said, would it be possible to get half the money down and I give you, and bring your plaques and you give me the second half? And he said, well, Dave, you got an honest space. Why don't you just tell me the total? So I told him the whole total, and he gave me a check, and I went out of there, and, on cloud 9, I went out, and I remember saying specifically, thank you, God, and what a country. That's what I said when I got out. And I went home, literally, and my father, he passed away last year, was a Baptist preacher. And I went home and told him, my mother, my wife, and they're all going, he gave me the check up front? I said, yeah. So anyway, I put on a suit, went out the next day, literally went 2 blocks to Century 21, David Swire and Associates, and they are still a client of ours after 25 years. That tells you the effectiveness of what we do. But I walked out of there with another check for $346.50 and said, thank you, God, and what a country, and never looked back.
And just kept on going. Well, congratulations.
Right. Thank you.
It apparently has worked out because we already pointed out at the beginning of the show that there's thousands and thousands of clients that work with your company, so that's great. Mm-hmm. So that's the good news. 25 years, were there any rough times?
Oh, my goodness. Yes. I started in 89 and in what was it? 1994.
Okay.
Yeah, 1994. I got a call. Circuit City, back then we were only doing $250,000. Today we're doing $8 million and projecting $10 million this year. But we were only doing $250,000 then. And I got a call from Circuit City, who was 40% of my business. Mm. That was $108,000 of my $250,000. So 40%. I got a call, and they said that they had rewarded it to someone else after me dealing with them for 5 years.
Wow.
And I said, what? Because I knew I had the best deal. And come to find out, it was a bid rigging situation. But anyway, we won't get into that. We don't have time. But I ended up losing the business. And I had just moved into my brand new building, which was a stretch for me at $250,000.
Right.
So I sat down there, and I literally cried.
Yes.
For 2 hours and said, woe is me, good Lord, what did I do to deserve this? And at the end of the 2 hours, I wiped my tears, and I said, all right, what the heck do I have to do to fix this situation? So from there, I grew it. We went to almost 400,000 the next year, and that's replacing Circuit City.
Yeah, great.
That was strong. We were motivated. You know how it is when you got your back against the wall. What else are you going to do?
Yeah. And first of all, I support crying. I've done it several times.
So have I.
Yes, I support that. Not always in public, but, I support crying. So, okay, so you went through that, and you just came back. You just fought your way back. And obviously, things are going really, really great. And I understand. I've read that you take off 20 to 22 weeks a year to travel just for fun. Yes. What's that about? And, and
that's one of the things that I write about in my book when we talk about that, is that I actually talk about building your team. And there are so many gurus out there like Michael Gerber and Dan Sullivan of Strategic Coach.
Right.
These guys talk about you build a business so that you can walk away from it, and it continues to work and continues to operate.
Uh-huh.
So I did that before I even knew about those guys, but I validate their theories. Let's just say that.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure I had competent people in place, because think about this. As a business owner, if you want to do everything yourself, you can't leave.
Mm.
And if you died or you were in the hospital, the business collapses. So it's not a business. It's a hobby. If it doesn't stay up while you're gone, then you're in a world of hurt, and you're going to have issues. You are definitely going to face some problems in your lifetime. So if it's all on you, you will be in some serious trouble. So I set it up where I found a very competent young man that I've built. He's been with me he's in his 17th year with me now.
Great.
Adam Tart. He's my right arm. Real quickly, I'll tell you this. When back in the Civil War, when Stonewall Jackson was shot and he had to have his arm amputated, and he was near death, and of course he died shortly thereafter. But when Robert E. Lee found out about that, he said, Thomas, being Stonewall Jackson, Thomas has lost his left arm, and I have lost my right. Well, Adam Tart is my right arm.
That's
and
great.
He enables me because I trust him completely. He's like a son to me now. I mean, he's been with me so long. But, Adam has it. He's got my back. I've got his. So if I want to take off, I don't sweat one moment about my business.
So you've built the team. You have that going for you, and I'm going to repeat it. You take off 20 to 22 weeks a year.
That's right. I'll give you a good example of this month. Let's see. The end of we're in May, obviously the beginning of May. But let's see, when was it? April 5th through the 14th. I was in Yosemite National Park. Mm-hmm. Then I got back, and I was literally here 10 days. And I went. My wife and I and 3 other couples rented a yacht in the British Virgin Islands, and we went around for a week there. And here we are. Roughly, great day. We got back Sunday a week ago, and we're leaving this Saturday. I'm taking 28 people to the Dominican Republic to an all-inclusive resort. This is our 8th year to do that. It's what we call our champions trip. The top third of our employees, and if they're married, I take their spouse too.
Wow.
I pay all expenses paid. I paid for, I think, about a dozen of us to learn how to scuba dive years ago. So we always try to go someplace we can scuba dive. And that I just honor and show respect and show significance of how much my people mean to me by doing something like that.
So you practice what you preach. We're down to the last minute, believe it or not. You've wrote a book about your experiences. You're writing a book. Tell us about the book. Again, we only have a minute left. Let me make sure I announce the website. I think it's top10manager.com, the number 10, right. top10manager.com. With the minute, tell us about your book.
Well, it's entitled Built to Lead, 7 Management Rewards Principles for Becoming a Top 10% Manager. Every company I've ever worked at in the past, I was always in the top 10%. And I know what it takes to be in that situation, and that is building your team. I like what Zig Ziglar said. He said, you build your team builds the company, and I believe that philosophy entirely. And that's what the book is based on. It's 7 rewards principles, is the acronym, REWARDS. And I go into great detail in each one of those and how it's impacted my success. And
people can see the beginnings of that by going to top10manager.com. We have been speaking with David Long. His company is myemployees.com. David, it's been a real treat having you, and I know you've been a big help to our audience of entrepreneurs, small business owners, and managers who really want to excel. Thanks so much, David. Thank you, guys. Appreciate the opportunity. Okay, take care. Bye.
Presenting the thought leaders of today.
It's the Business Builders Show with Marty Wolff.